Okay, everybody, I want to thank you very much for coming to get accepted to Harvard Business School, which I will be presenting in just now. Actually, right now, I'm going to start in just a few minutes, a couple of seconds, let you all get in and get settled. First of all, a word about me. When I was a little girl, I did not dream of becoming an admissions consultant. And as I graduated college, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do professionally. I'm sure some of you can relate to that. However, as a college senior, I loved being a writing tutor, which is what I was. And years later, in the early 1990s, when my children were young and my husband and I realized we need me to make some more money, I decided to return to being an editor and writing tutor. I put an ad in the UCLA Bruin and started getting business. To my surprise, I was frequently asked to edit graduate school personal statements and application essays. Frankly, I found them a whole lot more fun than research papers. I also sensed that there was an unmet need in the marketplace and a demand for a business focused on graduate admissions. Using my own MBA and a lot of sweat equity, I decided in 1994 to focus on admissions editing and advising, and Accepted was born. A couple of years later, in 1996, as an experiment, I put up a website, www.accepted.com, and business exploded. It grew quickly beyond what I could provide myself, and I began to add consultants and services. I found and find the work of helping young adults like yourself clarify their ideas as they pursue their dreams incredibly rewarding, and have been at it for roughly 27 years now. Accepted has helped thousands gain acceptance to elite graduate programs around the world, including, of course, Harvard Business School. Now, I'm looking forward to sharing my 27 years of admissions experience with you, admissions consulting experience, I should say. Before we begin, I want to mention a few to-dos that will help you maximize your time here, and one that will help us improve these webinars. If you have not yet downloaded your webinar worksheet, again, I know I said this before all of you arrived or as you were arriving, take a second to do so and print it out. You can find it at www.accept.com/Harvard-worksheet. And again, it's in your chat window. Carly, can you post it one more time? I'm going to ask several questions during the presentation and ask you to raise your hands in response. And I'm sure you're all experts at this. You can do so by clicking on the hand icon on your control panel at the bottom of your screen. We're going to use the question window for your questions, which you can post at any time during the masterclass. We'll have a Q&A after the presentation. I will be then joined by Natalie Greenblatt Epstein, one of Accepted's foremost consultants. If I ask an open-ended question during the webinar, please post your responses in the chat window. So again, answers go to the chat window, questions go to the question windows. That will allow me to go through a whole bunch of questions more quickly at the end. I also want to mention that you can win. We're going to have a fun contest towards the end of the webinar based solely on content presented during the webinar. And winners of the contest can win a free consultation, a brief free consultation with me. So stay tuned. And if you like what you're hearing to the webinar, stay for the contest and hopefully win then. When you leave, you're going to receive a brief survey. Please fill it out. I read them and we value your feedback. So please don't ignore that. Let's test your hand raising skill right now. Please raise your hand if you are here because business school, and specifically Harvard Business School, will whisk you on your way to the career of your dreams. All right, most of you are here for the right reasons and know how to use Zoom. Okay, gonna lower your hands. Last housekeeping item, and this is usually the applicant's favorite, Accepted has a special for today's webinar registrants. I'm going to tell you what it is right now, so you won't be anxiously waiting to find out later on. You can purchase a one school application package for $500 off, a two school application package for $700 off, or a three school or more application package for $800 off, or get 10% off our hourly plans, whichever you prefer. There's a discount for all of you. This discount ends, however, June 14th. Right now, it's exclusive to registrants to this webinar. It will be on site on June 7th, but the extra few days gives you folks early access to the June sale. The coupon code, as you see, is MBA for me. And again, for the packages, go to this page, and then link to the hourly services. Before we start, I want to get a better sense of where you're at in the application process. So first of all, in the chat window, please, could you tell me where you're located geographically? City and state in the United States, and city and country in the, if you're outside the United States. Delhi, India, Italy, Delhi, Boston, Mumbai, Nagpur, Bogota, Colombia. So we have Asia, India, North America, Chennai, Kerala, India, Lagos, Nigeria, Africa, Johannesburg, Accra, Ghana, Canada, Russia. Very international group today. Anybody from Australia? Chad? Great. Yes, we have, like I said, North America, South America, Africa, Europe, Asia. We have 5 continents. That's pretty good. That's great. Okay, welcome from near and far. Anybody from California, which is where I'm located? I'm in Los Angeles. Anybody from California? Let's see, one person has their hand up. I'm not sure if that's from the, maybe yes, maybe no. Okay, so maybe there are no neighbors to me, but again, welcome near and far. All right, here is a poll question for you. And the question is, how committed are you to applying to Harvard? The options are definitely, probably, maybe, and doubt it, but I'd love you to convince me otherwise. Okay. Again, the options are, how committed are you to applying to Harvard is a question. The options are definitely, probably, maybe, and doubt it, but I'd love you to convince me otherwise. Okay. And we're at 78% having voted. Can we get it up to over 80%? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's close the poll. And with 83% having voted, we can share the results. It's 65% are definitely, 26% are probably. This is a pretty committed group. 10% maybe, and 0% are in the doubt it category. Okay, again, it's more committed than usual, but that's fantastic. Okay, good. Next question for you is, where are you at in the application process? And the options are applying to Harvard Business School round 1, planning to apply round 2, hoping to matriculate in 2023 or later. In other words, apply in a different cycle, and just plain old ordinary not sure, which I probably would be the doubted people in the last poll. Okay. Let's get the polling numbers up. We're at about 73% having voted. I'd love to get it over 80% again. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. With 81% having voted, the results are that 55% are applying round 1. And round 2 is at 13%. 2023 or later is 19%. And not sure is at 13%. Okay, that's great. Thank you. Last question for now is, wait, did we share these results? Yes. Where are you at? No, that one we already did. Last poll is, how many of you are in the following areas: financial services, consulting, high tech, or other? Again, the options are financial services, consulting, high tech or tech, and other. Okay, we're at 78% having voted. 5, okay, let's get it up. 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. And with 81% having voted, we're at 29% are in financial services, 16% are in consulting, 13% are in technology, and 42% are in other. Interesting. I would have thought that consulting and tech would have been higher, but again, welcome. I'm happy to have you all. That's great. Raise your hand if you would like to know the guaranteed route to Harvard Business School. Yeah, well, most of you would, and that makes a lot of sense. But I'm sorry, it doesn't exist. We'll get to the reasons why later. And I can't say that the steps I'm going to outline today will guarantee acceptance, but they certainly will enhance your chances of acceptance. So the plan for the masterclass is to go through Accepted's 4-part framework for a successful MBA application and apply that framework to Harvard Business School. You can use the framework on other top programs applications also, and also for 2+2. But the tactics and the focus of today's webinar is going to be strictly on Harvard Business School's 2021-2022 application. Along the way, I'm going to issue a few warnings, a few do not do's, and I'm going to start with this one. You're not going to get into Harvard Business School by putting on some makeup. Magic wands won't do it. Spin won't do it either. You need substance. And substance, in my book, means competitive qualifications and an effective presentation of those qualifications. In other words, you need to demonstrate fit. Your overriding aim is to show that you belong at Harvard Business School. Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty. In the chat window, please, how do you intend to show that you belong at Harvard Business School? Again, the chat window, how do you intend to show that you belong at Harvard Business School? Okay, if I mispronounce somebody's name, please forgive me. Vebabi, through academics and cultural fit, good. Valeria, leadership attitude, okay. Ashita Patodia, commitment to what I set my heart to, that's okay, that's part of it. James Kim, habit of leadership, analytical aptitude and appetite, engaged community citizenship. Well, you read their website, very good, very good. Through my journey, showing work experience and leadership, okay. Leadership experience, impact on community. Excellent, Adrian. Good, good, good. You've all hit on part of it. And I think with the exception of James, who again got really all of it or almost all of it, because he did hit on the criteria that Harvard themselves provide. And that's really good. In Harvard's words, in my words, the first part of the framework is to demonstrate you can do the work. In Harvard Business School's words, it's analytical aptitude and appetite. The most common way to show this quality is through your undergraduate transcript and test score. And you want to be at or above averages for accepted students, ideally for both the grades and test scores. If not, how can you convince Harvard to accept you if you have, let's start with below average grades? Well, first of all, for the class that entered in 2022, or the class of 2022 that entered in 2020 last fall, the average GPA was a 3.7 on the US 4.0 scale. I realize that many people are here outside the United States, but we're going to stick with that metric for now. It's a very, for those of you from outside the United States, it's a high GPA. It's a high grade point average. It means that the people who earned it did well in school. However, this number, because it is an average, implies that approximately half, obviously not exactly half, were accepted with below average stats, and roughly half were accepted with above average stats. So don't look at that number as either a threshold or a ceiling. It's an average. The reality, however, is that the farther away you are below average, and if you combine below average grades and a below average test score, the less likely it is that you're going to effectively demonstrate you can do the work at Harvard Business School. If you are a little below average and you want to try to show Harvard or any other top MBA program that you can do the work, take business-related classes and earn A's in them if you have a problematic GPA or lack of quant classes. Now, this is, again, individual circumstances vary and the details matter. It might mean that you're not going to apply round one, that you'll apply round two because you want to take summer classes and you want to take fall classes and you want to be able to show those A's. It might mean that you postpone your application a year in order to nail this down. It might mean maybe you don't have to worry about it at all. Great. You can also consider certificates like the CFA if it's relevant to your career goals. If your quant skills are weak and you're the proverbial poet, but your grades are good, consider something like mbamath.com, quant courses at a local college, like Statistics for Business, if you have, or Calculus, if you have the prerequisites and remember them, Economics 1, Accounting 1. Massive open online courses are also possible. And HBS Online is an excellent option. Its core program is an excellent option if you lack a lot of quant courses in your undergrad and just kind of want to build up those skills before you're starting your MBA. A high test score can also mitigate a low GPA. And on your screen right now, you have the test stats for the class of 2022, and then again, the one that just matriculated in the fall. If you're considerable below or the average or at the lower end of the range that you see there for either the verbal or the quant, consider a retake. And if you're not sure whether to retake or not, you might want to look at either of these resources. We'll be sending out these URLs later, but I did do a whole webinar on who should retake the test and who shouldn't in that GMAT score webinar. And then we also have a shorter blog post. You can look at either one. So that I can do the work or analytical aptitude and appetite is generally evident in your transcript and test scores, the so-called objective elements or quantitative elements of the application, but it's not exclusively present there. When Harvard talks about analytical aptitude and appetite, they're not just looking at the numbers. They're also looking at the kinds of courses you took, whether they demonstrated a breadth of interest. They're looking at your communication skills because those are critical for Harvard Business School's quote unquote highly verbal environment and its famed CASE method. Harvard Business School says we look for individuals who enjoy lively discussion and debate, and that can come through via your essays, your resume, your recommendations, your transcripts, or your extracurricular activities. Remember that somehow, some way, you need to show that you can do the work effectively and not struggle with either basic math or communications. So that's part one of the framework. Part two, have a clear, realistic idea why you want an MBA from Harvard and how you intend to use it. Let me ask you, why do you think this is important? In the chat window, please. Why do you think your goal is important? Fit? Okay, that's one way. That's sure part of it. Yeah, it's one way to demonstrate fit. It's part of fit, definitely. Why else? Thank you, Rumi. Why else is it important? Anybody? After limited seats, they want to know their alumni will make the most of the experience. Excellent, Adrian. To be in leadership shows maturity of thought. Excellent, Vibabi. Very good. Your goal really should be employability. Good, Valeria. Yes, your goal should really be guiding you throughout this process. It should determine whether you need an MBA. It should determine where you apply to the MBA, or at least influence, not entirely determine it. You want a school that's going to support your goals. That's why you're investing, over $100,000 and taking 2 years off work. So that's number one reason. Number two reason is Harvard asks you the question. It asks you very clearly what's your intended post-MBA goal, and then to tell them more about your career aspirations. Now, the first part of it, the two drop downs, that's just a basic MBA goal as it's defined. It's classic. What do you want to do, not study? And in what industry would you like to work after you earn your MBA? You're probably going to need this for most schools that you apply to. And you should be able to say, I want to do X and Y industry. Now, the other part of that, the aspirations, briefly tell us more about your career aspirations, really gives you, they want you to dream a little bit here. They want to see what you aspire to do. They want to see direction, not in D. Leopold, the previous Harvard Business School admissions director's words, a laminated life plan. They allow you a whopping 500 characters, which is right around 100 words. So it's an open-ended question. You're going to have to be focused and succinct. You could discuss in this question, you can't discuss all these things, but you can discuss some of, I'm going to give you some ideas here. Greater career aspirations and goals, or why this goal motivates you. How did you decide you want to pursue this end? It should present a sense of purpose and mission. It should be something that could follow from your post-MBA goal. And I think you have to really think about what you want Harvard to know about your career aspirations, because you just don't have much room. You're going to have different boxes for job history and community service. So don't repeat that here. This is future focused. And obviously it should complement your immediate post-MBA ambitions. but it's much more about what do you aspire to do? What do you hope to accomplish? How do you intend to contribute and make a difference? And we're going to get back to that in a second, that concept of making a difference. The missions should be able to connect the dots between where you've been and what you want to do via Harvard's program, career strengths, and extracurricular opportunities. Now, they know their program, their career strengths, and their extracurricular opportunities. So you don't have to go into that. For some of you, showing that connection is going to be really easy. If you want to move up in consulting, for example, you can write about the impact you intend to have as you move up. If the connection between your past and desired future via the MBA isn't quite as obvious, make a case for it. You don't need to abandon or hide a non-traditional career path or non-traditional goal. Just make a case for it. For example, if you are a bioengineer who worked for a biotech company in medical devices, and you now want an MBA so that you can move into general management or perhaps launch a startup, you are making a change from a technical role to a general management role. But it all makes sense and fits with Harvard Business School's general management focus and strengths, and not to mention its enormous entrepreneurial strengths. So again, you don't have to feel like you're in a straitjacket in terms of your goal or aspirations. You can share them as long as they make some sense. Now, part 3 of the framework. Show that you share Harvard's values and have the character it seeks. Now, Harvard Business School's mission is educating leaders who make a difference in the world. And if you go to Harvard Business School's homepage, and actually throughout, you'll notice that the word differ and difference is incredibly prominent on the homepage. So guess what you better show in your application? You need to show that you've been a person who makes a difference. Now, as James pointed out in response to my earlier question, Harvard is extraordinarily clear about what it seeks. And its criteria, again, are fantastically laid out. Number 1, it seeks people who have a habit of leadership. I think this is the most important of Harvard's criteria. And it was actually quite interesting because several years ago, I had an opportunity to meet with one of the professors at Harvard. And at the time, we had like an hour meeting. And at one point he asked me, he says, what do you see as the common thread among your clients who've been accepted to Harvard? And I thought about it for a minute. I was actually surprised at the question. And I said, I think the common thread is leadership and impact. And he smiled and the conversation moved on. And as I was getting up to leave, I asked him, you asked me what I see as a common thread, but as a professor in the classroom, you see many more Harvard students. What do you see as the common thread? And he said, well, I smiled at your response because that's exactly what I see. So you have to show that habit of leadership and leadership with impact when you are when you are presenting yourself via your application. Keith Bevins, who's head of global recruitment at Bain, was a guest on the Admission Straight Talk podcast, Acceptance podcast, a couple of years ago. And in describing resumes or the mistakes that people commonly make on resumes, he said they describe responsibilities as opposed to impact and achievements. He wants to see the latter, much more of the latter, not merely the former. And I think the same is true. I think that's a reflection not only of Bain's focus, but what he learned at Harvard and the fact that he himself is a Harvard MBA. So again, as you're responding to Harvard's questions throughout the application, keep in mind these criteria, and particularly the importance of this habit of leadership. The second of Harvard's criteria, which we've already touched on, is analytical aptitude and appetite. And this is not just test taking. It's critical thinking and a desire to learn and analyze. And in Harvard's words, and I'm quoting from their website, our case and field-based methods of learning depend upon the active participation of prepared students who can assess, analyze, and act upon complex information with an often ambiguous context. So the question Harvard is asking itself as it reviews your application, can you learn from and change after mistakes? Can you learn and change as a result of successes? Can you grow? They want people who are willing to analyze, again, situations themselves and grow. And the third part of their criteria is engaged community citizenship. And indeed, community service is a great place to show that impact, that difference making that had so impressed the professor and me, and that is so important to Harvard Business School. So remember the mission that I mentioned and the importance of making a difference. That's, again, what people who are involved in their communities tend to do. And frankly, it's frequently easier to make a difference off the job than on the job for relatively junior employees. Ideally, you want to be able to do it in both arenas, but don't focus exclusively on professional contributions. Also realize that community service is not just, though it's very admirable, working in your neighborhood or serving at a local soup kitchen or helping the homeless in your neighborhood. We are all members of multiple communities. And community service implies commitment to and responsibility for a group. That's what community service is. When you help your neighbor, you're being a nice person. When you commit to chair a committee, you commit to manage an event, that is community service and leadership. Now, again, I mentioned we're all part of multiple communities. What do I mean by that? You can be part of, and you can of a sports community, an ethnic community, a religious community, a political community, geographic, i.e. your neighborhood, alumni or professional associations. All these are different communities, and we are probably part of several, not all, I would think, but certainly of several. So you don't have, and finally, you don't have to join an established organization like one of the ones listed on the screen, no matter how fine they are. You can start one when you see a need. That's also going to be something that's very admired, very much appreciated, not only by the people who benefit from your service, but by Harvard Business School. Now, here I'm going to issue one of my warnings. There's a big difference between mouthing platitudes, spitting back websites, and showing that you share the values. The former is just waving a magic wand or putting lipstick on a pig, and it isn't pretty. But examples in your essays and job activities, your activity descriptions, and the bullet points in your resumes, these can all show in a real way that you share those values and meet the criteria. And now I'd like you to just take for yourselves a minute and write down ways in which you can demonstrate that habit of leadership that we've been talking about. All right. You can keep writing, and I'm just going to go on for a little bit with another caveat, or just continue on this theme. You don't have to spit back phrases at all. You have to show that you will contribute and make a difference while also taking advantage of Harvard Business School's differentiators. Now, what are some of the differentiators at Harvard Business School? And again, you don't have to take advantage of all of them, or show that you're interested in all of them, but some of them, it's probably a good idea. Again, and you not so much that you have to discuss them, because they know what's at their, what they have. But anyway, let's go forward. All right. So the first differentiator is the case method, and to a lesser extent, field projects, experiential learning. Some schools use the case method some of the time. Darden uses it significantly more than others, but many schools do have experiential learning. But it's the combination of these almost exclusively that is very distinctive about Harvard. Harvard also has a section experience, the required curriculum, or RC, at Harvard. The first year is a lockstep curriculum. You are with the same section the entire year. You will have a study group, but that is distinctive to Harvard. So if you want a lot of flexibility, it's not going to be in your first year at Harvard Business School. Harvard also has a lot of joint degree options. MS MBA, MD MBA, JD MBA, MPP MBA. I think there's also there are more blank, M whatever MBAs that I can even think of. I think there's an MPH MBA. And then there's a lot of international opportunities at Harvard Business School. First of all, the student body itself and the faculty are really a UN. There's a required global field immersion. There is an elective field course in year 2. And then Harvard Business School itself has a really global footprint. Harvard is also very proud of its communities of engagement, which are research fuel, where faculty, students, and alumni connect with practitioners in the field to develop insights that drive impact. That's a quote. Harvard Business School is a residential community. Most students live on campus in Harvard residential halls. I want you to notice for a moment that on this list, brand and ranking doesn't show up. So you don't, brand and ranking is something that I think is certainly important, but it's not something that should play a role in your application at all. And you don't have to show interest or a fit for all these 6 differentiators, but your application should show an appreciation for the required and distinctive aspects of the program, or you should be prepared to mention that or discuss that, what particularly is appealing to you, certainly in an interview. Another warning, if you focus on rankings or Harvard Business School's brand, you can really obscure this fit aspect of the application process. The result will be that you blend in, and you want to stand out in a positive way. You want to show that you have the distinctive experience and perspective to contribute and to take advantage, to make a difference at Harvard Business School, as well as the ability to take advantage of Harvard Business School's differentiators. I mentioned before, and I'm going to say it again, Harvard Business School's homepage, go to it and note how many times the root differ or difference appear on the page, especially in large print. They want people who have made a difference and who will make a difference, both at Harvard Business School and beyond. Now, Harvard has a lot of applicants, and it can be choosy. It rejects 8 out of 9 applicants, even if that ratio was slightly more favorable last year, Corona. And that really leads to my last strategic point, the fourth part of the framework. You want to demonstrate, and this is the one that's not on Harvard's criteria, you want to demonstrate that you can make a difference, that you'll be able to contribute to class discussions, the field experiences, the school's community, and ultimately make the school proud to have you as an alum. So how do you reveal a habit of contribution, impact? You want to do so throughout, really, because Harvard believes that past behavior predicts future behavior. So have you contributed in the past? Realize, again, Harvard Business School, I know I'm being repetitive, wants different makers. It wants givers, not takers. So in the chat window, please, can you give me some examples of times when you have made a difference? I'll give you, while you're writing, I'm going to give you a couple of examples. Maybe you captained your college baseball team to the first championship in 10 years, or you led a marketing initiative that increased sales for a specific product by 10% each of the 3 years after it was introduced. All right, now let's look at some of the examples you folks provided. Rumi just wrote, in my business and sports, that's, I'm glad, but I don't know anything about what you did or what impact you made or the difference you made. You want to focus on the results. Okay. Volunteering, again, you want to focus on results. Mentored a junior at work. Okay, that's a good start, but what did that accomplish? How did the mentor benefit? Pradeep wrote, rolled out new safety policy in company as a union leader, oil and gas. Did you reduce accidents on the rig through this, or whatever piece of equipment is being used? That would be the result. Became faculty and committee member at ICSI and helped CS and students. How many students did you work with, Yogesh? What was the result? Founder of student chapter, employee size 18,000. Okay, now we're talking numbers. Sai wrote, improved Toastmaster Club members by 20% as VP of membership. Good. There we're talking. Adrian, increased nonprofit revenue 6 times to increase number of kids served by 10 times. Excellent. Okay, there. Adrian, you nailed it. All right. Grew a business from, wait a minute, this is moving, from a sole proprietor startup to over $1 million in sales and 10 staff. Okay, Rumi, now we're talking. Now we're talking accomplishments. I prevent 3 tons of office trash to be thrown away to the garbage. That's 1. Okay. Yeah. Yay, Adrian. Okay. Okay. All right. I think you folks are now understanding where I'm kind of going with this. So it sounds to me like some of you certainly have the experience that Harvard would be very interested in. And that's great. And many of you are going to have the credentials that we've discussed, and you could meet the criteria if you also present them in a particular way. All right. So you want to present yourself distinctively so that you will naturally stand out. And I think I'm going to show you what I'm talking about right now. And let's have the next two polls. Okay. All right. So poll number one, how many of you during or since college have, and you can choose multiple options here, worked in finance or consulting, traveled outside your home country, or volunteered in some capacity? And okay, you're voting. That's great. We're at 75% having voted. Again, the options are worked in finance or consulting anytime since college, traveled outside your home country, or volunteered. We're at 77%. Can we get it up over 80? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's close the poll and share the results. So 62% have worked in finance or consulting, 59% have traveled outside their home country, and 85% have volunteered in some capacity. Okay, next poll. Okay. How many of you during or since college have, and again, you can choose multiple options here, and we should have added none of the above, I'm sorry, worked for a hedge fund focused on emerging markets, consulted for pharmaceutical companies exploring entry to new markets, or volunteered as a camp counselor for a wheelchair-bound, ventilator-dependent teen? I'm going to have to do some math here myself. Okay, we're going to close this now. Asset management counts as finance, yes. Not as a hedge fund, though. All right, so I'm going to do the math because I know how many people are here, and it's roughly 8% for the hedge fund, and consulted for the pharmaceutical company is also about 8%, and the ventilator dependent team is about 5%, 4%. Let's say 4%. What's the difference between the two sets of questions in the chat window, please? You can share the results of the last poll. Sorry. Impact, specific. Pradeep, that's right. The second set was more specific and hence unique for Bobby, right? Specificity and focused impact. Exactly. Extremely specific. What happens when we talk in specific terms? In the chat window again, please. Drives the point home. That's definitely too. It's more concrete, but that's not even what I'm looking for at the moment. We know we are focused. We show impact and stand out. Exactly. You stand out, right, Shisom? You differentiate yourselves. Honest outcome and reality, that's true, but you differentiate yourself. So that's what I want you to take away from this particular exercise. Yes, it is more concrete, and it's much better to write in specific and concrete terms, no question. But do you see how specifics differentiate you? So the first set of questions, right? There were, in one case, 85% of you could answer if I talked in generalities, but when I talked in specifics, suddenly it was under 10%. You distinguish yourself automatically by writing in specifics. So when you describe what your profession, are you an engineer or a transportation engineer? Are you a consultant or a healthcare consultant? Did you found a new organization to address a specific need in your community? However you define your community, again, define it specifically. So add to your distinctive experiences, your motivations, and your lessons learned, and you actually have application gold. Really, application gold. Again, I'm going to repeat this. If you add to your distinctive experiences, your motivations, and your takeaways, you have application gold. Now, why is distinctive experience important? In the chat window, please. Well, I'll tell you why, because I don't want to take more time on this. Admissions is a two-step process. And the first step is determining who is qualified. And at Harvard Business Schools, there are always too many qualified applicants. The second step is selecting from among the qualified so that the admissions office creates a diverse class and rich learning environment. And this second step really injects a subjective element to the admissions or the selection process. And that's the reason there is no 100% formula or recipe or guarantee for acceptance. Remember that slide way back at the beginning? Harvard Business School wants to create the most interesting, diverse class possible, quote, a dynamic environment that mirrors the breadth and depth of our world economy, close quote. The implication from the selection part of the process is that Harvard Business School has no reason to admit an applicant who hasn't made a difference in the past and is unlikely to do so at Harvard Business School or beyond. It also has no reason to admit somebody who can't contribute a distinctive perspective or experience to the class environment. Now, let's review the 4 strategic steps you need to think about while putting your application together. First, demonstrate you can do the work and excel. 2, reveal a goal that requires a Harvard MBA. 3, show you share the values and meet the criteria that Harvard Business School has laid out. And establish your ability to contribute distinctively to make that difference in your class. Now let's look at the elements of the Harvard Business School application. Harvard wants a 1 to 2 page resume, and it also asks for a job and activity history. And throughout, they are looking at this. What you see on your screen, by the way, is from last year's application. The 2022 application is not yet out, but these have been pretty standard for the last several years. Okay. I do know that the essay question is unchanged. In all cases, Harvard is looking for evidence of leadership and achievement. In the resume and employment section, focus on your achievements and contributions. In other words, the difference you've made in the past and not mere descriptions of responsibility. Remember that exercise we did a few minutes ago, right? You didn't just, where I asked you to describe some achievements and you said, well, I volunteered. Well, that's nice, but man, it's the result that counts. The employment section asks for the most recent 3 jobs. And in all cases, go beyond the resume in the employment section to focus on achievements, to a certain extent, reveal motivations and lessons learned. Even when Harvard is merely asking for your role and responsibilities, like the top box, amplify that. So, for example, maybe you can say that you led a team or you led a cross-functional team of 5 where you were the youngest member. So that was your responsibility, but you're amplifying the responsibility. Okay. Quantify your impact whenever possible. Again, think of the exercise we just did, where the concreteness made it much more impressive, and show how you went beyond your responsibilities. For the activity section, again, it's list up to 3 extracurricular activities in order of importance to you. Again, this is from last year's application, but I'm not anticipating any major changes here. Harvard wrote, please tell us about the things you do while not at work or in class. Include other activities like community service here as well. And we use this section to get a sense of the leadership roles and activities that attract you. This is an order of importance to you, but as always, Harvard Business School is looking for leadership. They're trying to get you to know you here, but I would focus more on those activities where you are interacting with others. Again, making a difference, contributing. So if meditation, for example, is your favorite activity, perhaps try and organize a meditation club at your workplace or in your community, so that you can both reveal the importance of meditation, and at the same time show that initiative and leadership that Harvard values. Now, the essay. As we review your application, what more would you like us to know as we consider your candidacy for the Harvard Business School MBA program? And the key point here is, what do you really want Harvard Business School to know that isn't reflected in your application? What more is the key phrase? And Chad Losey is very clear on that point. Chad Losey is the director of admissions. So your essay should be additive. It should complement the other parts of your application. And the question is, what are you truly proud of that you would like Harvard to know about you? Think of the 3 Harvard criteria. Think of your background, your story. The essay could be context for events listed in your resume or activity list. Again, your story. It could be a challenge you face in achieving what you have achieved that doesn't come through in the boxes. It could be a pivotal moment. It should be something that only you can write, and it should be something you want to share with the Harvard Business School Admissions Committee. It should be about you, not your parent, your grandparent, or someone you admire. And I would encourage you now to jot down some ideas on your worksheet, assuming you have your worksheet. There's a place for it in the worksheet. Jot some ideas of what you would like Harvard to know that shows that you're a leader, that you are a person of resilience, that you're a person of strength, a contributor, and a difference maker. What it shouldn't be a copy and paste of your response to Stanford's What Matters to You Most and Why. And you shouldn't take the kitchen sink approach of throwing everything you want into that essay. I know there's no word limit, but let's face it. I think the fact that there is a no word limit is both an opportunity for you to show judgment or lack thereof. Try and make sure you're showing judgment by making every word count. So when you're looking at your life, choose the most critical and impressive. You also don't want your essay to be a resume in prose or some superficial summary of information found elsewhere. Chad Losey specifically pointed to this as a wasted opportunity in his comments at a recent AGAC. AGAC is the Association of International Graduate Admissions Consultants, at a recent AGAC conference. And again, although there is no word limit, be concise. Harvard and most busy people value concision. Don't write more than is necessary and keep it focused. Harvard also provides an additional information section where it asks you to please share additional information here if you need to clarify any information provided in the other sections of your application. This is not meant to be used as an additional essay. Please limit your additional information to use the space in this section. Use the additional information, this is me now talking, use additional information section to explain something that needs explaining or clarification. They don't want more. There is a 500 character, last year there was a 500 character limit which equates to roughly 100 words. I don't expect them to expand that character limit. If anything, that might shrink it. Now, the interview. Prepare for a probing interview with someone who has closely reviewed your application. They may ask you to connect the dots between different parts of your life, explain decision and pivot points in your life, and you need to be able to respond thoughtfully to an unexpected question. If you do get an unexpected question, there's nothing wrong in saying, could I have a couple of, give me a second to think about that. That's all. And then organize your question and respond. What is the purpose of the Harvard Business School interview? It's to evaluate your fitness for learning in a case-based method environment and assess your fit with the Harvard Business School community. Now, Ida Valentine, in our 311th episode of Admission Straight Talk, gave some wonderful advice for people going into their Harvard Business School interview. At the time, she just graduated. At the time, she was a first-year student at Harvard Business School. The interview is an amazing story of resilience and strength. She unfortunately did not have the easiest upbringing and college experience, but it's an amazing interview. No thanks to me, thanks entirely to her. And there is some very good advice there for the Harvard interview. To plan for your Harvard Business School interview, know your Harvard Business School application inside and out so that if you are asked about it, because you will be, you're going to be ready. Nothing's going to catch you by surprise there. In addition, ready stories and examples that show you as a decision maker and leader, and prepare examples that show you in a community or group setting and as a giver, not a taker, as a person who has made a difference. Harvard also has its interview reflections, which are an email that it requests you to send them within 24 hours of your interview. And they're letting you have the last word here. Now, the first thing you should do when you get out of your interview is just walk out, decompress, and then think about the interview you just had. Okay, think about it. Where do you think you answered well? Where where do you wish what do you wish had been asked? And what do you feel you need to clarify? It's for those things that you wished you had said or wish they had asked that the interview reflections is for you. It's an email. It's a chance for you to demonstrate how well you can communicate when you don't have weeks to spend crafting and editing and revising and doing what you do with the essay. Now, let's go back to your goal in submitting an application to Harvard Business School. Show that you belong at Harvard. And we're going to have our contest. Remember, I promised you that at the beginning. Again, the first 3 to correctly answer this question each gets a 15-minute free consultation with me. I'd like you to provide your response in your answer rather in one response. So don't hit enter in the middle. What are Harvard's 3 criteria for admission? Okay. Yeah, I thought, James, you'd get that one. Okay, James, you got it. Again, put it all in one answer. All right. You know what? I think I'm going to ask a different question. Okay. So, James, you got the first one. James, you got the first one. Um, and Chisholm, I think it was Chisholm got the second one. Yeah, Chisholm got the second one. And I think I'll ask a different question for the third winner. Okay. I'm going to make that up right now. What is the all right. Yeah, well, I would suggest that you look up those criteria or listen to that part of the webinar again. See, what's another one I can ask you right now? What's the key to relating your accomplishments effectively? Specific. Highlighting the impact. Exactly. Show impact, stand out. Okay, that's what I was looking for. Um, and I think the first one to get that one, focus on impact, focus on the outcome, was Adrian. Okay. All right. Now, the 3, just so to go over it, since that didn't apparently come through too well, the 3 criteria for Harvard's 3 criteria for admission are a habit of leadership, the habit of leadership, intellectual aptitude and appetite, and engaged community citizenship. Now, let's review the 4 ways to show that you belong at Harvard Business School in terms of the acceptance framework. And you'll see that the first 3 closely mirror that there is overlap between Harvard's criteria and the accepted framework. Number 1, show that you can do the work and excel. Present those academic credentials. 2, have a goal that requires an MBA from Harvard Business School. 3, show that you meet Harvard's criteria and share its values. And 4, demonstrate that you'll be able to make a difference in class discussion and teamwork, the school's community, and ultimately make the school proud to have admitted you. And an almost final word of advice from me. Remember, the admissions committee readers are sharp, intelligent professionals. So don't try to craft, fake, or fool. The best presentation of you is an authentic reflection of your achievements and dreams, keeping in mind the 4 things that will make Harvard want you. Now we're going to go into Q&A in just a second, and I'm wondering if you could just share with me What was the most valuable piece of information, insight, or advice for you so far in today's presentation? In the chat window, please. The 3 criteria, okay, how to show community engagement, show distinguished experience in your motivations and takeaways. Didn't know I had to add takeaways too. Takeaways are valuable. Harvard's 6 differentiators and its importance in applications, importance of looking for a match in the vision statement. Just one thing on the differentiators, you don't have to show that you want all of them. Impact matters most and be specific. Great, Alfred. I'm so glad you got that. Okay, wonderful, Shakirat. Great. Being genuine is the key. Great, Yogesh. Wonderful. Okay. Thank you very much for your responses. Realize that a successful Harvard Business School application requires all 4 elements of the framework, not just one and not just 3, not even the 3 that closely resemble Harvard's criteria. Because to get accepted to Harvard Business School, you need to show not only that you belong at Harvard, which is basically parts 1 through 3 of the framework, you also have to stand out in the applicant pool, and that's part 4. This framework gives you the what of a successful application. What you need now, however, is the how applied to your individual circumstances. To be accepted, you need to get accepted and work with one of our outstanding consultants. You want to show that you both belong at Harvard or whatever MBA programs you're aiming for and stand out in the applicant pool. We want to guide you in creating an application that as a whole spotlights your strengths and mitigates your weaknesses. An application that accomplishes everything we've discussed here today in connection with Harvard's business school application. And you're at a fork in the road now. You can take a do-it-yourself approach or a professional approach to your professional career and future. Naturally, I recommend the professional approach, and here's why. With Accepted, you can access expertise and experience, reduce your nerves and anxiety, save time, optimize your school choice and application, and mitigate weaknesses. That's what you get when you take advantage of Accepted's team of outstanding consultants. We're one of the oldest admissions consultancies out there with highly experienced consultants. Now, some may say Accepted is expensive, and we're definitely not cheap. If you want the cheapest service around, we're not for you. And we are not cheap because of the quality of our staff. However, there are also expensive risks associated with not using Accepted. Reapplication can easily cost a few $1,000s if you choose to go that route. One additional year of pre-MBA earnings can cost in the 5 figures in dollars. And there's a potential that you could have gotten into a better program with lifelong higher earnings and a better network, and that could cost you in the 5 or 6 figures. Every year, we work with applicants who talked to us a year earlier and decided after taking the do-it-yourself approach and getting rejected that they wanted to work with us. They would have been better off working with us initially, and so would you. But enough from me. What do accepted clients say? All right. I'm just going to read excerpts from the testimonials on the screen. But the first one is, I did find out just over a week ago that I was admitted to HBS. I definitely would not have been as successful without your help. Or the next feedback. And yesterday I got the good news, and it was from Harvard. I'm absolutely thrilled. Amidst the euphoria, I want to take a moment to thank Accepted, Jennifer in particular, for all the help and in ways that went beyond admissions consulting. Or here, a couple more. It's a wonderful feeling to have been accepted by Harvard, a school that until now I had only dreamed of attending. But sincerely, I could not have done it without the help of Cindy. She made sense of my confused ideas and inspired me to write well. But the best part was her editing. It was almost magical. Or the last one, although I just got admitted to Wharton, I already decided that I will be joining HBS. This person was also accepted to Stanford. This is like a dream come true. I already recommend my friends to work with you when they apply. Different people, different challenges, and different fears. Same result at Harvard Business School. I can't say that all our clients are accepted to HBS, but we'd sure like to use the same magic of expert, insightful, individual advising that we use with these clients to help you get accepted to HBS. Imagine yourself in their shoes, happily sharing the news with friends and family, attending an admit weekend in Boston, planning to start at Harvard Business School in the fall and pursue your dream career. with Harvard forever on your resume and the HBS Alumni Network as your network. Here's what they did and what I suggest you do. It's now June. There is time before Harvard's round one deadline to work with us. Contact us ASAP, and we'd be happy to help you from scratch or review and edit your essays. Our goal is to guide you so that you present all 4 parts of this critical framework and show that you both belong at Harvard and are a standout in the applicant pool. Take these steps to work with an experienced, outstanding MBA admissions consultant. In addition, as I mentioned at the beginning, through June 14th, you can take advantage of this special just for webinar registrants. Now, this is today, it's just for you folks. It will be on site as of June 7th. But right now it's just for you. And the offer, as you see, is either X dollars, very generous X dollars, I might add, off a school package, or 10% off hourly work. This ends June 14th. The coupon code is MBA for me, and it may not be combined with other discounts. Again, exhibit.com/MBA package. Now, before you leave to select the services right for you, I'm happy to take your questions. I am joined now by Natalie Greenblatt Epstein, and I'm also going to let you see my smiling face. Okay. All right, Natalie, you there?
I'm here.
Okay, I'm going to make
video
you. Yeah,
is,
yeah. Here now it should work, Natalie.
Okay.
All right. Okay, great.
Oh.
Still not. Okay. Yeah, there you are.
Oh, there we are.
Okay. Okay, great. So let's go to the questions. Oh, we got a lot of questions here. All right, great. We have a wonderful audience. Okay, so the first question is, hi, Linda. Thanks for the awesome work you're doing. You're very welcome. I have a small query. Does a 39-year-old with 15 years of experience in the energy sector hold a chance for Harvard full-time MBA? Natalie, you want to take that?
Can you repeat the number? I didn't hear
Sure.
that. The number of
Sure,
years?
sure. Does a 39-year-old with 15 years of experience in the energy sector hold a chance for Harvard full-time MBA?
Okay. So I want you to think about a couple of things. And I'm giving you the admissions director's perspective as a former admissions director.
Oh, I forgot to get, you know what, Natalie, I forgot to introduce you. I'm sorry. I didn't give your qualifications. Natalie has, my apologies. Natalie was a admissions director at Ross, Cornell, and University of Arizona. She's been an accepted consultant since 2008. And I think every single year she's had clients accepted at Harvard Business School. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so lots of experience all around.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
That's okay. So from an admissions director's perspective, we do want you to be able to contribute to the classroom, which you have plenty of experience to do. Linda mentioned, one of the things they want to make sure of is that you're going to have success in the program after you complete the program, but you have to keep in mind that the average number of years of work experience at Harvard is about 4.7, I think is what they last published. So your classmates are going to be a full decade younger than you, and at different life stages in their at different stages in their life and in their career. So it does make things more difficult for you. Is it impossible? No. You may want to take a look at some programs that cater to mid-career applicants, like Stanford's MSX program or MIT Sloan Fellows program, or London Business School Sloan Fellows program, or IMD's MBA program, or University of Southern California's IBEAR. Those are all full-time programs that cater to a mid-career, which is what you are considered after 15 years of work experience, candidate. So again, is it impossible? No. Are you going up a very steep hill when you apply? Yes. I think it's all this other criteria that's going to make a difference in terms of whether or not you can make a case for yourself in your application with Harvard Business School.
All right. I just want to add for two things. Carly, can you post a link to the MBA article for older applicants, number one? And number two, if you look at, I think, the age or experience level for Harvard Business School, you will see that it is quite wide, but there is a cluster around, let's say, 4, 5, 6 years of work experience. I know I once was talking to the previous director of admissions at Harvard Business School, and she said the sweet spot for them then was 3 to 8 years of work experience. So you're definitely an outlier there. There are no stats that I know of broken down by age or even experience level for Harvard Business School. Clearly, some people get in with much more experience, but there are no reliable stats. So, like Natalie said, it's not going to be easy. It's not impossible. And I would also encourage you to look at some of the programs that are aimed at people like you. Okay. Next question. What if you want to change your industry? Is that looked upon negatively? I'm going to take that really fast. I'm going to just say no, not at all. Nobody goes to business school in order to do the exact same thing that they were doing before. So that's not looked upon negatively at all. Natalie, do you want to enrich that? Because I know that's a very succinct answer.
Yeah, no, I would say, like, of the people that came to my program, 90% were making changes. So yeah, this is not unheard of. I think you need to prove that your skill set may be also a good skill set matched with the MBA curriculum that will enable you to achieve that goal.
Okay. And Carly, I think if you search, you'll also find at least one article that I remember for career changers. And maybe we can post that link too. Let's see, I'm not quite sure what this one refers to. We have a lot of questions here. This is from an anonymous attendee. Do recent jobs include also promotions? In other words, associate consultant and senior associate consultant in the same company count as one? Thank you. Natalie, what do you say to that one?
Does it count as one company?
Well, Harvard limits
in the Harvard. Yeah,
yeah.
no. So what they ask also is beginning salary, beginning position. I think so when you're doing this, I haven't separated out the associate and senior associate, other than in the resume where it's easy to see the promotion and what you've been able to accomplish, your progression at work once you've gotten the once you've completed your resume. So in terms of the work experience, I leave that for companies. If you've only worked for one company, you can spread out the experience a little bit more and the roles a little bit more. But if you have 6 companies under your belt, you kind of want to show 3 of those 6.
Right. All right. And another anonymous attendee asks, in extracurricular activities, can we also include activities we do within our workplace? In other words, participation to affinity groups for women, LGBT, or should we include only community activities?
A little of both. I mean, again, you have your resume where you can put other activities down. But if you're doing something really significant at work, that's made an impact at work, and it is something that you do that you don't get paid for, then I would definitely add that in. And also have at least one outside activity, meaning outside of work activity.
Great. Thank you. Another anonymous question. Hi, Linda. Great session. Thank you very much. Can you also please share some insight into the reapplication process? What can be done there, and how can you deviate from your original story that you submitted with last time? I don't know. I don't like the word deviate. I think it's improve that you want to go for. I'll tell you what. You want to start, Natalie, with this one, and I can fill in whatever I want. I can fill in when you're done.
Absolutely. This is what we do, our team.
Right.
So I think it's interesting Also the word deviate.
Deviate.
But
Yeah.
obviously the story that you told, even though it was your personal story, didn't get you the results that you wanted, which is an offer of admission to HBS. So I think that you would need to like really sort of reanalyze what it is you want to do with the story, right? Are you hitting on all the marks, and in terms of what Linda said, you know, those criteria that you want to demonstrate to show that you can, you know, do the work and have a habit of leadership and engage in the community? Does your story go into all of those things? And is it an interesting story? Because they're reading thousands of applications. So your story needs to get them in the very beginning. One of the things you can do is work with us. We do have something called like a reject review or rejection review. And we're happy to go through that material with you, but we're also happy to just, you know, help you present yourself in a better way that will be engaging and will hit on all the right marks and will tell the story in a way that will help the AdCom see that you're a great candidate for HBS.
Yeah, I'm just going to add a little bit to Natalie's excellent answer. I think it's really important that your application show improvement. The way you posed your question almost seems like you assume your essay is perfect. That's very, very few writers out there write perfectly, and very few pieces of writing can't be improved. So, and again, getting back to Harvard Business School, it wants people who are willing to grow and transform. So maybe you need to let your essay not assume it's perfect. All right. Maybe there's a way to present your story that's a little bit more engaging. Maybe there's a way to focus it that's a little bit more effective. Maybe you want to bring in more recent experiences, because one of the things I think that's absolutely critical for reapplicants is that they show growth and improvement. Okay.
Absolutely. Including, like, I mean, you may need to take a class. That's something we can offer you in terms of an assessment. Like, do you need to take an additional class? Was it your academics, or was it really, you know, the essay, or was there something else in your background that didn't click with the admissions committee?
Okay. And we are posting in the chat window relevant resources, or resources that are relevant to the question that's been posed in our conversation. So just keep an eye on that. Okay. All right. Next question is from Sai. Thank you so much for the session. Is there a preference between impact in terms of numbers of people, I assume, managed versus money raised in funding? Do you have an opinion on that?
I think you're demonstrating impact either way. So
Yeah.
you would need to, it's not the number of people you manage, but what you've done to help them grow. I mean, I know that schools like Harvard do appreciate people who manage other people. But again, it's the impact that you have on those people. Fundraising is also important. So there can be a combination of those things. But, you know, I always think of succession planning. Whenever I was managing people, my first day, I was thinking about succession planning. So how can I help my team grow? And, you know, that was really important to the schools that I worked with, to the organizations that I worked with, and to those individuals, because they're all doing some really cool things right now.
We had a manager for many years who said, it's my job to make the other staff members successful. It's a great attitude. Okay. Lovely Sharma writes, I was dinged post-interview last cycle. Does that mean I only need to work on my interview, or the application itself might still have a role to play in the rejection. Very similar. It's somewhat similar. I wouldn't say it's the same. Natalie, you want to start?
So obviously you made it through one hoop, which was to get to the interview stage. But you are going to have to, as Linda said, show growth in your application, or they're not going to look at you for a second time. Now, I have worked with a couple of re-applicants to HBS who did incredibly well. And obviously they went to HBS after the reapplication. But we really came at the application with a different point of view. So a more mature point of view for these individuals. I don't know what your situation is, and you're welcome to contact me offline so that we can chat about it. But obviously something happened in the interview, but also there may be things that they, weren't 100% sold on in the application. So, and you are going to have to show a new application.
Right. Okay. From Vibabi, you had some excellent responses to my questions during the webinar, so thank you for that. Vibabi asked, can you elaborate, give examples on ways we can use the additional information section on the application? Now, Harvard's additional information section is fairly restrictive. Let me go back to it.
100 words. Yeah.
Nope. Let me go back. Sorry. Okay. I think it's 300 words, and it's, they're quite clear. They only want you to use it if you feel you need to. They don't want another essay, etc. Do you have any thoughts on that?
No, I mean, like, unless the school is telling you this is what we'd like in this additional info section. Sorry, my mouth is really dry. It's over 100 degrees here today. That's why I keep
Arizona.
sitting on my water bottle. I'm trying to stay hydrated. But like, unless the school has like two sections, one where it says, tell us about any like issues that you had academically, or with your recommenders or whatever, and then they have another additional section. And I do know there's one or two schools that do that. I would only use that additional information, that other section, not not the main essay where you're talking about what they should know that's not in your current, in the other part of the application. But this section would really be anomalies. If you're not using a current supervisor to recommend you, if you can prove that you can do the work, but your scores aren't as high as you'd like, or your grades aren't as high as you like, or you did take additional classes, or you took HBS core to prove that you can handle the academics, or there was a gap in your work experience, things like that.
Right. A dip in grades one semester because you got sick, or there was a family issue, a gap in employment, those kinds of things. If you don't have those kinds of things, you don't have to use it.
Right. I didn't want to read it. If I didn't have to read it, I didn't want to read it. But I don't want anybody like leaving it off if they really do need to explain something. Because the one thing you don't want to do is leave the admissions committee guessing. Because if they're guessing at something, that means there's holes. And the likelihood is if you have holes in your application, you're going to fall in that no pile.
Right. Okay. We have from an anonymous attendee the question, hi, Linda, thanks for your awesome webinar. Thank you for the feedback. I learned a lot. It's great. What is your advice for someone with a petroleum engineering background with a disjointed work history of about 4 years looking to transition to corporate strategy? How can I show that I possess the transferable skills that I hope to augment with an MBA to succeed in my new career path? Well, as an engineer, you presumably are trained as a problem solver. And I think that would be one skill that would be really important in corporate strategy. And beyond that, I think we really would need more information to answer your question. There's just limits to what we can do, in a quick answer in a webinar.
I do have one thought.
Sure, go ahead. Go ahead, Natalie.
And that is in strategy, you're really a big picture person.
Yeah.
And engineers typically with your level of work experience have been working on problem solving, but not like big problem solving. So you want to demonstrate something that indicates that you can solve these big problems, the big picture overall, and that's something that would enable you to make that transition.
Okay, great feedback. And then we have a somewhat similar question from a different anonymous attendee who says, hello, Linda. Hope you and your team are doing fine. We are, thank you. I'm an oil and gas engineer from India with average GPA of 7 out of 10 and 8 years of work experience. I do have good volunteering experience. What GMAT score would make a strong candidacy? It's really hard to give a number, but, and my usual answer to this question is aim for an 800. Because you'll get a lot higher if you do that and then deal with whatever you get. But if you want to twist my arm, here, I'm putting it behind my back, so it's really twisted. I probably would say you need at least a 730 or a 740. Natalie, what do you say?
I think everybody, again, like Linda, I say aim for the 800, but I think, realistically, you need to be in that average to higher. Like that's what you should go for is, their average or a score that's higher than that average. Now with Harvard, they have the luxury of turning down people with 800s if other parts of their application don't make sense to them. So the score is one thing. The other thing about Harvard is if you have a really good application, because they have such a big class, they can kind of hide you in the group that's below the average if you don't have the average. I still think go for what you can go for, and it takes a lot of pressure off of you if you have a higher score. So
okay, great. Anurag asks, hi, Linda. Thanks a ton for such a wonderful and critical insights. You're very welcome. If possible, can you please discuss about scholarships at Harvard, if there is any? Actually, Harvard is one of the more generous schools in terms of scholarships. So they rarely give out full scholarships, but they do give out significant scholarships to a large percentage of the class. I from memory, I'm thinking it's about 50%, 40, 50%, right?
Yeah. So for the most part, you have to demonstrate need. But I've had clients that have gotten scholarships there that are, I think, quite generous. So yeah, just, go for it.
Do the best you can.
Do the best you can.
All right. Vibabi asks, for someone with 2 years of work experience, not very impressive work, but strong profile otherwise, would you recommend applying now or waiting? I'd say wait. Make your work experience more impressive and wait. And let's see. Okay. Sai asks, if possible, does volunteering as product management strategy manager in a startup help the application? Probably. Again, the question is, does volunteering as a product manager or strategy manager in a startup help the application?
Yeah, I think that would be interesting.
Yeah.
I kind of want to know why and
right. I'd like to know more
startup.
information. Right. What kind of startup? Again, what impact? How's the startup doing? What impact have you had?
And why are you doing it?
Why are you doing it? What else could you be doing that maybe would help your application?
Yeah.
So there's some questions there, but
yeah, are you getting any shares?
Stock options, right. Okay. Let's see. Son asks, is 3 years work experience okay to apply to Harvard Business School? Well, it is okay in the sense that many, people are admitted with 3 years of work experience. They tend to have a little bit closer to 5, but the quality of the work experience is what's going to be determinative, not the 3 years.
Yeah,
Natalie, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, Ida, who Linda,
Yeah, mentioned earlier.
yeah,
She had only
3
three?
years of work experience.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, she was my client, and she only had 3 years of experience in banking, but she had a promotion and just some really interesting stuff going on. So just she was so much fun to work with. So
Okay. Shakira asked, thanks for the session. Will using the GRE instead of GMAT affect my application negatively? No. Do you have any, right? That's the answer,
no,
right?
it won't.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely not.
Done. Chisholm asked, do internships count towards work experience? I mean, they're not counted as full-time work experience. You know, they're not part of your permanent job. There's something you did while in college, and they're certainly valuable. I think they count a lot if you're applying to 2+2. That's
Right.
in 2+2, and internships are very important. Okay. All right. So I think at this point, I want to thank Natalie for her assistance. And before you leave, attendees, to select the service that's right for you, I'd like to ask you, I want to share with you a story, a final thought before parting, and also a final question. Okay. So again, Natalie, thank you very much for sharing your deep expertise with us today.
You are most welcome, Linda. Anytime.
Okay. The thought. There's a paradox inherent to acceptance at top business schools. You have to demonstrate that you both fit in and stand out. By fitting in, I mean that you belong at the target school, in this case, Harvard Business School, in terms of your goals, your academics, your work experience, and your values, that you're going to be a valuable member of their community. For Harvard Business School, that means showing that you have the habit of leadership, the analytical aptitude and appetite, and the engaged community citizenship that Harvard Business School is looking for. Standing out, you need to stand out in a highly qualified, intensely competitive applicant pool. You need to show that you're going to contribute distinctively, add a special something to the school's community, make that difference that Harvard so wants, and also make the admissions committee members proud they voted to admit you. Let me give you an example of how Natalie works with, whom we've been talking with, works with a client to successfully navigate that paradox at the heart of the admissions process. Whoops. Here we go. Let me get the right one here. Okay. And we'll put this back to full screen. I have great news. I got accepted by 4 out of 5 schools, and one school even made a great scholarship offer. Most likely, I will move to Boston, HBS, in August. Or the second one, different client. As a Chinese male with a below average GMAT, I got advice from other consultants to apply for lower ranked schools. Natalie is one of the very few who believe that I actually have a shot at M7. I almost gave up my hope for HW. Accepted to Harvard and Wharton. Both of Natalie's clients followed the steps on the screen. With Natalie's help, they found their secret sauce and unearthed and polished the gem inside of them, because that's what Natalie's always trying to help her clients do. They earned their MBA at Harvard Business School. We'd love to help you discover, present, and polish the gem that's inside of you so that you can join these former clients and become an HBS alum. You've registered for the webinar, and now so that's the story. You got the thought, you got the story, and now the question. You've registered for the webinar and have attended the whole thing, including the pitch and the Q&A. You're clearly interested in what we here at Accepted have to say. If you're not a client or planning to become a client, could you please share with me, help me out, and share why you are hesitating to engage with us? I'd really appreciate any input you could provide. And again, that can be in the chat window or the Q&A window or whatever you want. Okay. Need to find the chat window again. It somehow disappeared. Natalie, you're welcome to unmute yourself and participate in this. Anybody want to share what's causing hesitation? Sai says, planning to apply in coming years. Can we still engage? Yes. You can engage now. You can get feedback now. You can get tips on how to improve your qualifications and your profile before you're actually applying. It's a great idea. One marvelous use of money. Fantastic investment. Yes, Sai. Vaibabi says, I know I want to apply, but I'm not sure about when. Again, that's something that we can advise you on. If now is the best time, then we can help you, with the application itself. But if we say, maybe wait, then you can also get advice on what you should be doing between now and when you apply, how you can strengthen your application, how you can demonstrate that habit of leadership. So again, an hour of our minimum fee is $340. That's an hour of advising. If you don't use a whole hour up in one time, you can split it up. You can do 2 half-hour sessions, whatever you want. But definitely yes. Okay, Shakirat writes, as an African-American female from a low-income background, I honestly can't afford the fees. I understand, Shakirat. We do still have a ton of free advice and resources like this webinar, and I would invite you to take advantage of them. I just posted a link to that, to the free resources for MBA. I do want to point out again, well, if you have the wherewithal to pay the application fees, then you may have the wherewithal to also pay for an hour advising, which could save you a whole lot of application fees going down the drain. But anyways, that's just a thought. I understand where you're coming from. Pradeep writes, not having a GMAT score. I can understand where you may want to wait to engage with us until you have a GMAT score. But again, as I said to Vaibabi and to Sai a few minutes ago, if you want to strengthen your profile in other areas, we don't do GMAT prep or GRE prep. If you want to strengthen your profile in other areas, when you still have the time to do so, it's a great opportunity to take an hour, talk to somebody like Natalie, and get input on how you can actually strengthen your profile and the non-test areas of your application. Okay.
I'm actually working right now with 2 clients who are 2 to 3 years out from applying. And what we are able to do is really set them up for success. Like, these are some things that you can do right now, even though they're not ready to apply, but these are things you can do right now to make sure that you're going to be a viable candidate 2 to 3 years down the road.
It's, in my opinion, that 1 hour can be one of the best investments you'll ever make. Okay. All right. Chisholm wrote, I'm thoroughly impressed with the webinar, but I am deeply disappointed that I will not be able to engage accepted as a client, even though I'm looking to apply this cycle. The main thing holding me back is the cost. Living in Nigeria, the extreme devaluation for the Naira makes the cost very expensive. I'm very excited that I won the free consultation, and I'm looking forward to talking to you also, Chisholm, and we'll definitely be maximizing the opportunity as well as other free services. Wonderful. That's good. Any other feedback from those? Now, if you are in the United States, unfortunately, I can't offer this to Chisholm and to Shakirat because they're outside the United States. But inside the United States, if you go on our website, you will see that Accepted offers a firm which can break up our fees into 36 months, assuming you purchase more than $1,500 in services. And under $1,500, I think there is a 6 and 12 months option. There also is through PayPal an interest-free. A firm does charge interest. No, we don't collect it. They get it all. PayPal does provide an interest-free option for up to 6 months. So again, but I think you have to be in the United States to use that. So with that, anybody else want to share why they are not engaging with Accepted if they don't intend to? Or have any questions about services? And Carly, could you actually post a link to the advising, the hourly advising? So for those people who are not yet ready to apply, they can take advantage of it. And again, as I mentioned, you could get 10% off any hourly purchases. Okay. You're very welcome, Pradeep. I want to thank you all again for joining us. And I got very nice feedback from Bobby. Hope you and your team are well in these tough times. Really love the way these webinars are organized and delivers. Thanks a bunch, Linda. Thanks, Linda and Natalie. Again, I want to thank all attendees. I want to thank Natalie for her help and participation. I want to thank you all for coming. And I want to just wish you all the best with your applications and moving forward. You take care. For those of you thanking me, you're very welcome. Take care. Bye-bye.